Hello and welcome. You're listening to What's Wellness, and I'm Alia, your host. This podcast is all about the universal and also individual principles of wellness. It answers questions and helps guide you to find your optimum state of well being, however that resonates for you. And today's episode, I'm really excited to talk about Ayurveda and get into the basic understanding of the three doshas. The doshas are the constitutions that each of us have a percentage of the three doshas that make us who we are. So you can be predominantly one of the three doshas. You can be a combination of two out of the three, or you may be balanced with all three doshas. But the focal point of learning about the doshas is to be able to understand what to do when you're feeling out of balance and how to bring yourself back into balance or wellness. So the three doshas are vata, which predominantly run cold and dry. Pitta, which is fiery in nature, you may run hot, and kapha, which tends towards cool and also damp or a little bit on the oily side. If you resonate right away with one of these three doshas, if you run cold, run hot, or have a tendency to be a little extra damp sometimes, then you may already be able to identify which dosha you are predominantly. And if not, I'll give some more information as I get into this episode. Before I get started, you probably already know that I'm a yoga teacher. I lead Alia Yoga Academy teacher trainings. And if episodes such as this one about Ayurveda and the doshas really speak to you, then perhaps you might be interested in diving deeper and learning more. If that's you, please don't hesitate to look into yoga teacher training with me. You can send me an email anytime with any questions that you have, and I'll do my best to answer your specific questions, both via email and, if you're willing, also on air. You can email me, Alia at aliayoga.com, spelled AHLIA, and I promise to get back to you ASAP. Without further ado, I will jump off for a quick break, a little let you know about what I do to create this podcast, and then I'll be back with more information about Ayurveda and the doshas. Before we jump into today's exciting episode, I want to tell you a little bit about Anchor, which is the platform that I use to create this podcast. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free, and there's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor distributes your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can monetize your podcast with no minimum listenership. Everything you need to make a podcast is in one place. So please go to anchor.fm to get started or download the free Anchor app. Welcome back, and thanks for sticking around. Today's episode is all about the three doshas in Ayurveda. Ayurveda is known as the sister science to yoga, and it's a way for practitioners to bring balance for their mind, body, and spirit. Ayurveda is commonly known as the science of life and the yogic science of healing. Ayus is life in Sanskrit, and Veda means knowledge. This yogic science of healing is rooted in ancient Indian tradition and is thought to be the oldest healing system on the planet. It's an art of daily living and offers an understanding of each person's unique body and mind constitutions. This is an important science because the focus is ultimately about optimum health and well being and balance in all areas of one's life. There are a few principles of Ayurveda that I'll explain before we get started on the doshas. The first is ahimsa, which is one of the yamas in the eight limbs of yoga. And ahimsa is a Sanskrit word that means non violence and also teaches about non judgment at the levels of speech and thought and action. There are also five elements that are incorporated into Ayurvedic science, and they are ether or space, which is created by subtle vibrations. The second is air, which is the element of movement, think wind. Third is fire, and in our solar system, the source is the sun. And in our physical bodies, the source is our metabolism and digestive fire, or Agni in Sanskrit. Fourth is water, which is vital for all bodily systems and functions. And finally, earth, which holds all living and non living substances to its solid surface. The science of Ayurveda has a classification for all living things based on their unique qualities or states of being and forces of nature that make up an individual's constitution. All three doshas are present to some varying degree in each individual. We all have a combination of all the elements that make us who we are. The concept of health in Ayurveda is such that when you, as an individual, you're balanced with a unique ratio of the doshas, then optimum health and wellness can be achieved. Now, as I get started talking about each dosha, I want you to also think about the natural elements and examples in nature. First is vata, and the natural elements are space and air. The example in nature, think of wind, and wind has movement, and the dosha vata governs movement in your body. Anything that moves is governed by vata. Vata people are predominantly running cold, and they also may have dry skin and dry hair, even think dry digestion. They tend to be a light, small frame, and they're fast paced thinkers, fast walkers, and talkers. Vatas may have light sleep or, when out of balance, may suffer from insomnia. Also, something that's common with vatas, if you're out of balance, you may experience anxiety or some worry, unnecessary fear. Vatas can also suffer from constipation and lower back pain. So, what do you do if you're a vata and you're experiencing some insomnia or constipation or anxiety? The idea for bringing balance to your dosha is to think about opposites. And the easiest example that I have for vata who run cold is to do whatever you can to stay warm. I'm a vata, and in the fall, winter, and early spring months, I always wear a scarf around my throat. Why? First, because I talk a lot, and to have a dry throat or a sore throat is not conducive to my wellness or my ability to contribute in this way through a lot of teaching and speaking in group classes and private classes, teacher trainings, and of course on this podcast. So wearing a scarf when it's cool, dry, or windy out really helps my vata nature stay in balance. Other ways to balance vata is to have a meditation practice that helps to bring you out of any anxious thinking or worrisome thoughts and ground you into your physical body, feeling rooted in the truth of who you are, your divine essence. Other suggestions: drink warm beverages like hot tea, eat warm foods, and try to cook your food and get creative. Also, do things that are more slow and steady. Rather than quick and ready to go, how about a yin or gentle vinyasa practice, something more restorative than go, go, go? If you're a Vata like me, you may notice sometimes that physical movements can aggravate your nervous system, making you feel more anxious rather than more calm and relaxed. So, do what you can to find that balance and to bring yourself into wellness, thinking about opposites. The next dosha I'll dive into briefly is Pitta, and Pitta is governed by the element of fire. Pittas run hot. Opposite of Vata, Pittas can be fiery in nature, and when you're out of balance, Pittas may get angry easily. However, Pittas have really good digestion because of their ability to metabolize food easily. So, Pittas have great digestion because of what's called Agni, which is your digestive fire. And Pittas may suffer even from heartburn, which would be too much Agni. So, Pittas need to have some practices to help to cool your system. So, going back to Vata, Vatas can practice Ujjayi pranayama, Ujjayi breath that heats the body, whereas Pittas, I'd suggest if you easily overheat, to avoid Ujjayi pranayama, especially in the hotter months of the year. What can you do instead of Ujjayi breath? You can take open mouth exhales, which help to release heat from your body and cool your system. When pittas are feeling balanced, they are passionate, inspired, with a lot of courage and ambition. But when you pittas are out of balance, you may experience hypoglycemia, skin inflammation. You may feel impatient or irritable and anger more easily. Pittas get sharp hunger. You can't miss a meal. You have great digestion and elimination. Good for you. I'm jealous. Pittas have sharp intellect and may come off as a little bit of a aggressive nature. To diffuse this sharpness or intensity, try some more calming and cooling practices. Add some watermelon and mint and ice to your smoothies in this summer. Use cooling spices like cardamom and other cooling spices to help to cool down your system. Get plenty of sleep, and if you start to feel angry, take some slow, deep breaths to help diffuse this energy. A quick recap about pittas before we get into the last dosha. For balancing pitta in body and mind, think a combination of vata and kapha, which is the last dosha that I'll cover. So to find some more balance, emphasize moderation and focus on staying cool, my pitta friends. Avoid overworking and stressful deadlines and find more time to relax. Cultivate a sense of balance and moderation. You've heard me say before, everything in moderation, including moderation. Have a consistent schedule for your meals and your exercise routine, and do what you can to stay calm, cool, and collected. Now, for the kapha dosha, the third dosha that I'll cover today, kaphas have a tendency to run cool and maybe heavier in nature with a large frame. This is typical of the kapha dosha. It's easy for kaphas to miss a meal. They have a calm and steady disposition. Kaphas are like your teddy bears, someone who loves to give really warm, loving hugs and is always there for you. Kapha is governed by the lungs and also sinuses, your nose, mouth, throat, stomach, pancreas. Kapha is the combination of water and earth. Think mud, a fertile place for growth and for flourishing. Kaphas are a little bit slower to get started, but they're like the tortoise. They win the race because they're determined and have endurance. For kaphas to find balance, it's important to eat warm food, but nothing too hot and nothing too cold, finding that happy middle ground. Also for kaphas, seek out new and stimulating, also energizing activities. So start going for faster walks or even a slow jog. Do invigorating exercise, especially during long periods of sitting. Get up and do a short burst of movement every hour to stimulate your blood flow. And kaphas, friends, try to avoid oversleeping. Keep a consistent schedule, including what time you wake up and what time you go to bed. And to create more balance, think the opposite of slow or lethargic. So play energizing music, use energizing scents, drink warm liquids, and eat light foods. Try eating mostly raw or lightly steamed, and have exercise as a part of your daily routine. So kapha, kind of opposite or combination of vata. So thinking of balancing the two. If you run cold, you need more warmth in your diet, more heat in your body through exercise. Or if you're pitta and you run hot, do exercise in a non-heated environment, or perhaps try going for a swim. Cool your body down. And for kaphas who run cool but sweat easily, you don't like a humid environment. So find a place that's a little bit dry and not too hot and not too cold, and get yourself moving, something invigorating to get your blood pumping. With the energy of wanting to keep this episode short and sweet, but also highly educational and informational, I'll end today's show with some food suggestions to eat for your dosha, and also to remember it's important to eat seasonally. So, whatever is in season that's going to help bring balance to your dosha, that's what you should be looking at for produce. So, for vatas, you're looking for food that's easy to digest, nourishing and warming, that helps you to feel grounded. And just a note for vatas, for optimal digestion, it's important to eat fruit by itself. So rather than having your eggs in the morning with a smoothie or a side of fruit, eat your fruit first and wait at least a half hour, maybe even an hour, and then eat something with protein, or the other way around, eat fruit by itself. So, good foods for vatas: pineapple, mango, papaya. These are all great for digestion. Coconut, citrus, banana, nice fruits for vata, berries, grapes, and avocado. Also good for vatas: yams and sweet potato, any kind of rice, pumpkin seeds, walnuts, sesame seeds, also red lentils. Oats, as long as they're cooked nice and warm with some liquid or even fat in there, something grounding and nourishing. Vatas do really well with squash like zucchini, pumpkin, butternut, and spaghetti squash, and also warming spices like ginger, turmeric, cinnamon, and clove. For pittas, you want to find foods that are cooling and calming, that are dry but also sustaining and anti-inflammatory. When pittas are out of balance, it's common to experience inflammation in your body and also in your skin. So, some good foods for pacifying pitta: apple, watermelon, fig, coconut, also coconut juice or coconut water, celery and berries, also any kind of melons, cucumber, peppermint, lime, asparagus, bok choy and broccoli, peas, and potatoes. Also good to incorporate black lentils, quinoa, mung beans, and avoid hot spices. So instead of spicy food, try cooling spices like coriander, mint, cardamom, and fennel. Last but not least, turning to kapha, you want foods that are light and dry. Choose foods that are well spiced and warm, easy to digest, but also energizing. Look for things like artichoke, cilantro, green beans, carrots, also sweet potato, oranges, flax seeds, and chia seeds, anything made with oats. And for kapha, less is more, everything in moderation, including moderation. So if you have a tendency to overeat, try having a glass of warm water with lemon or a tiny bit of apple cider vinegar before you eat or while you're eating, to help diffuse any heat in your body, but also keep your agni, your digestive fire, help to keep you full longer and sustain you. I'm Alia. This is What's Wellness, and it's an honor to share this information on Ayurveda with you today. I would love to stay connected or get connected, and I have a couple of ways for you to reach out to me. Also, ways to practice yoga together. So first of all, I have a YouTube, Alia Yoga. You can check out my free videos on there. I do live streaming yoga classes once or twice a week, especially Wednesdays, 4:30 p.m. It's my Sunshine Yoga donation class for the community on Facebook, my group Sunshine Yoga with Alia, or Zoom. You can send me your email and I'll send you the Zoom link. Also, find me on Instagram at Alia Yoga. And if there was something that really resonated in today's episode, I'd love it if you screenshot where you found that interesting information and share it on your Instagram. I will share it as well. Tag me. Also, What's Wellness is now on Instagram. Look for What's Wellness Podcast. If you have any questions that you'd like me to answer on air, please send them my way. And also, if you have comments, concerns, feedback, or otherwise, I love to hear from you. I'm still donating money in your name for every review that you leave. 5-star rating and written review on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to this podcast. I love you guys, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you tuning in every week. And another thing that I'm really grateful for is yoga, all 8 limbs of yoga, and the ways that the yoga practice has helped me to up-level my sustainability, my visibility, my connectability, and also my connection with myself. I love yoga for all the ways that I'm able to practice both on and off the mat, and the ways that it's introduced me to other topics such as Ayurveda. I'm Alia signing off for now. I'll be back next Thursday with a brand new episode of What's Wellness for You. And thank you all once again for tuning in today.